This is my discussion slash review for New Amsterdam Season 5, Episode 2, titled Hook, Line, and Sinker. And the title is very aptly named. Let's talk about it.
Live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings, I'm a big fight.
When it comes to New Amsterdam, there's very emotional and impactful and very heavy scenes that takes place. But there's only a very few amount of deaths that actually, kind of really just transpire within this series. And even though we didn't really just know the paramedic, that death, it was a little sad to have that death take place in this episode. I felt very emotional with that death. He saved this one kid that jumped, I want to say off a bridge or whatever, into the water, and he saved him, and he ended up dry drowning and choking on his own blood, and there was nothing they could do to actually save him. I felt kind of bad that he died, but like when I saw his partner crying and, Bloom kind of helping her and, hugging her in that moment, I was like, oh man, you know what? That really did tug and pull at my heartstrings a little bit. That moment was genuinely sad, man. I kind of felt for him because he risked his life to save this kid, and the kid is going to end up being fine, but he lost his life. So I felt kind of bad for his partner and everything in that situation. Kind of tugged at my heartstrings. The rest of the episode, I don't want to say was different, but it was different. You know what I'm saying? Because we have Iggy this episode, starting the episode off, we see him recording himself for something, and in that moment I was like, what is he recording himself for? But it turned out to be a dating app and him filling out like a video for the dating app. In the entire episode, Iggy never got any responses until the end because he had his age limit set to 90 with his dates. I don't know. Okay, like an older woman for a guy trying to date an older woman, that's a cougar, and I'm assuming it's the same for a guy trying to date an older guy, maybe like a saber-toothed tiger or a lion or whatever. But a 90-year-old, I feel like if you're searching for someone that's 90 or over, you're looking for something a little bit prehistoric, if you would. That was funny to me. But him talking to Martin and Martin telling him that, he had the age limit set to the wrong thing. And after that, it kind of said like he had like 17 likes or whatever on his profile. So big ups to Iggy on that aspect. And so we finally see that him and Martin are actually going through with the divorce. But the only thing I didn't like about this, because I feel like now we know that this is the last season, their separation, their divorce, so much other stuff is just starting to come to the surface, and they're just trying to hammer it out because this is the last season. So we're not really getting stuff over the span of a time of a season that we normally would when it comes to New Amsterdam, because they very well, they deal with the cases and stuff, and they kind of break things down throughout the seasons. But it feels like everything's just a little bit rushed, in my opinion, with this season, because just last episode, I know we came back, but just last episode, we find out that they're being separated. Then this episode, we find out that they're finally going through with the divorce. Iggy's on a dating site. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's happening kind of fast. And I'm not a big fan of that. Episode was great, but I'm not a real big fan of that. We see the stuff that's going on with Floyd and his father. Floyd's father, we find out this episode that Iggy thinks he might be he hasn't been diagnosed, but he has bipolar disorder. And all of this stuff, it just seems like it's coming out of nowhere. We see that Floyd is trying to have a decent relationship with his father. They're enjoying each other's company. They're fishing. And Floyd sees that his father goes from happy to sad and angry in an instant. But they are enjoying each other's company. Then Floyd kind of just snaps at him, and his father snaps at him. So it kind of became a whole thing. But we see that at the ending of the episode, after Floyd talks to Iggy, he realizes that, hey, your father might have bipolar. And that kind of played in Floyd's mind, but we didn't see anything about that. So we'll have to wait till next week. But like the stuff with Iggy, and then let's talk about Max, because we see that Max is trying to do something helpful for the hospital by helping these people get a lot of the stuff that they need that technically is medicine, but it's not actually medicine. You know what I'm saying? Because he brought up this wonderful idea to the board about giving these people a card and giving them $50 to spend that on, I want to say medicine adjacent, if you will, because it's not the actual medication, but it's stuff to prevent them from having to actually take the medication. Because the prime example would be the lady with the bus pass. She has asthma, but her walking to work in that heat, causes her asthma to flare up. So if she takes the bus, it doesn't have to flare up as much. She doesn't really need the medicine. So I feel like the concept was nice. He went about it the wrong way because that well ran dry fast. But he came up with a better idea, is to have people sponsor people, because people love giving to charities, but people also likes to know where their money is going, so nobody's getting scammed by other people that's running this charity, and then they just taking this money, and then they becoming, they're stealing the money from the charity. But it's nice, and I like the format. They put it on a website, and now you can read these people's stories and understand where their money's going, and you can choose to help them if you feel like it. And I feel like that was a nice concept. That's one of the best things Max done in a long time, in my opinion. It's such a nice way to help people, because people do want to help people, but just sometimes they just can't find a way to actually really do it. And this helps them do that, and they know exactly where their money's going. But let's talk about the fact that they kind of just rushed him and Wilder together. Wilder's dealing with a case her own this episode about this baseball pitcher that, he's got in a car wreck. His arm's messed up. She's going to have to amputate it, but he feels like he doesn't want to live anymore if he has to lose his arm because he's a pitcher. And Dr. Wilder kind of tells him that, hey, it's not the end of the world. It's not the worst thing. And I feel like that whole interaction was such a nice scene, in my opinion. Iggy gave his 2 cents, and Iggy wasn't wrong because he was competent. So I can't declare him incompetent. But the fact that Dr. Wilder decided to talk to him one more time instead of just going directly with the amputation, she talked to him and kind of gave him a different outlook and a different perspective to way to see his life after baseball, and that he could still have a chance of living. It won't be, a normal life, because he won't have his arm or he can't pitch anymore, but he will still be alive to figure something else out. And I love that whole interaction with Dr. Wilder and the patient, because she kind of shared her story a little bit, and the story about veterans, about them losing their arms and everything. Like, their life isn't over just because they lost a limb. They still have to live on, and I think that was a very nice segment. But I like Dr. Wilder. You guys know I love me some Dr. Wilder. Viva la resistance. But I feel like the whole interaction with her and Max, I feel like they're rushing it. If it happens, just let it unfold. Let it happen naturally. But I feel like they're trying to force it just a little bit more, in my opinion, because we get this whole ending sequence where Max is trying to talk to her in sign language, and he's messing up the words, and then they're having this interaction where they look into each other's eyes and they're smiling at each other, and she corrects his hands, and then that we're friends. They kind of really made that a very vivid point about them being friends, but I don't like the concept of them rushing them together. Like, if it happens, let it happen naturally, because he's still reeling off a Sharp. And I know that's a whole ordeal, because like I read another article that, with the Sharp aspect, they're just all on bad terms. So, I feel like that whole Sharp win thing is done. That's dead in the water, dead on arrival. It's over with. So now they're trying to force him and Dr. Wilder together. And I like Dr. Wilder. I really, really do. I love me some Dr. Wilder. But if their relationship was to happen, don't force it. Just let it happen naturally. Then we see that Bloom, this relationship, even with the stuff with Layla, is all of this just feels way too fast, in my opinion. Layla's visa is finally done with. She's leaving Bloom's apartment, but Bloom doesn't want to go back to her apartment. She decides to go to her sister's place, and her sister's like, she's dealing with drugs and junkies and all this. Her sister's seems like a hot mess, but Bloom decided to stay with her sister. Like, so much is happening way too fast, in my opinion. Like, I could be wrong. I could just be overthinking everything, but I just feel like, in my opinion, everything's happening just way too fast. They need to slow it down just a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say it's like 13 episodes this season, so I know why they're trying to rush it, but I'm just saying, when you rush things, it always ends up not being as good as it could have been. I'm messing up my words. Anyway, that's just my take on it, but I could be wrong. Comment down below, let me know how you feel about this episode and how the season is going so far. This is your boy, Incredible. Don't forget to smash the like button so you can't smash any more. Comment down below, and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them. And subscribe. Peace out.
I cannot complain because today, I'm doing my thing.